The old research base stood alone in the middle of the red desert. Wind pushed dust against its metal walls, making a sound like whispers. Most people believed the base was abandoned. Most people believed nothing lived out here. But they were wrong. Inside the base, Ethan Cole, a mechanical engineer, walked through the dark hallway. His boots echoed in the silence. He held a small flashlight in one hand and a toolbox in the other. He had worked here for only 3 months, repairing systems that no one needed anymore. He always wondered why the government still paid him to stay here. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever changed. Until today. The power had been acting strange since morning. Lights flickered on and off. Screens turned on by themselves, then shut down. Ethan tried to fix the generators, but the problem was deeper. Something inside the base seemed awake. He reached the control room and opened the main panel. Sparks jumped out. He hissed and stepped back. Great! Another meltdown! He muttered. He leaned forward to check the wires, but suddenly, the screen in front of him turned on. The monitor flashed with static, then formed strange symbols. They looked like letters, but not from any language he knew. Then, slowly, the screen cleared and displayed a message. Signal detected. Sector 7, Lower Lab. Ethan froze. Sector 7 was sealed years ago. It was the most forbidden part of the base. No one was allowed to go there. Even his access card did not work for those doors. He stared at the message. His heart started to beat faster. Sector 7? That place is locked down. So where is the signal coming from? The screen beeped again, and audio crackled from the speakers. At first, it sounded like static. Then breathing. A slow, painful breathing. Like someone struggling for air. Ethan's mouth went dry. He listened again. The breathing grew louder. Then a voice, faint but clear. Help! Ethan flinched. The voice did not sound human. It sounded soft, broken, like a mix of metal and breath. He stood still for a long moment, not sure what to do. But something inside him refused to ignore it. Maybe someone was hurt. Maybe someone needed him. He grabbed his flashlight and left the room. As he walked, the halls felt different. He had walked these corridors 100 times before. But now, every shadow looked alive. Every door seemed to watch him. The air felt colder. He felt like the base itself was holding its breath. When he reached the elevator to Sector 7, the keypad flashed red. Access denied? He sighed and turned to leave, but suddenly, the lights above him flickered, and the keypad turned green. Access granted? Ethan stared at it, stunned. He did not swipe his card. He did not type anything. The base had opened the door by itself. The elevator doors slid open with a metallic groan. He hesitated. His hands were shaking. Something was wrong. Everything inside his mind screamed to go back. But that voice, that breathing, it pulled him forward. He stepped inside. The elevator shook as it descended. The lights flickered, then shut off completely. Ethan stood in the pitch black. Then, a soft whisper filled the elevator. Breathe. Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He gripped his flashlight like a weapon. He did not speak. He could not speak. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. A cold fog drifted inside. He stepped out into Sector 7. The room was huge and dark, filled with broken machines and shattered glass chambers. The floor was covered in dust, as if no one had walked here in years. Then he saw it. At the center of the room, on a raised platform, lay a long table. A shape rested on it, covered by a glowing white sheet. It was the size of a human body, but longer. The sheet pulsed with a soft blue light, like a heartbeat. Ethan walked closer, his legs heavy with fear. The air smelled like metal and burned wires. He could hear the breathing now, louder, struggling, painful. Then the voice came again. I can't breathe. Ethan froze. The voice came from under the sheet. He looked around the room. No one else was here. It was only him, and whatever was under that cover. His fingers trembled as he reached for the sheet. He pulled it back, just enough to see a face. Silver skin. Eyes closed. Lips parted as if gasping. A woman, but not human. She looked fragile, dying. Her eyes slowly opened, glowing like stars. She stared at Ethan. He stared back. Then she whispered, with a voice full of pain, "Help me!" Ethan's heart stopped. Ethan stumbled back, almost dropping his flashlight. His chest felt tight, like the air had turned to stone. He had seen strange things in this base before, old experiments, half-built machines, secret rooms, but nothing like this. Nothing alive. Nothing breathing. The alien woman lay on the table, her silver skin shining faintly in the cold light. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. Every breath looked like a fight. Her glowing eyes watched Ethan with fear and hope. A strange mix that made him feel both terrified and responsible at the same time. Ethan swallowed, trying to speak. His voice cracked. Who are you?" The alien woman blinked slowly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She raised a trembling hand, pointing weakly toward a small machine next to the table. Tubes hung from it, broken, sparking. Ethan moved closer. The machine looked like a life support system, but not human design. Its screen showed symbols and oxygen levels he did not understand. Her weak voice whispered, "Air wrong, can't breathe." Ethan stared at the screen again. The numbers flashed red. Her oxygen requirement was different, something in Earth air was poisoning her. He turned to her. "You're dying," he said quietly. She closed her eyes, as if the truth hurt to hear. Ethan glanced around the room. Machines, old equipment, storage shelves. Maybe there was something, anything he could use to help. He rushed to a cabinet and pulled the door open. Inside were canisters, metal cylinders with alien writing. He grabbed one and brought it to her. "This? Is this yours?" Her eyes widened a little. She nodded. Ethan searched for a valve, a port, a way to connect it. His hands shook as he worked. Sparks jumped when he attached the hose. The canister hissed, and blue mist filled the tube. He carefully placed the mask over her mouth. She inhaled. Her back arched, eyes glowing brighter. Then she collapsed back onto the table, breathing steadier now. The lines on the monitors shifted from red to yellow. She was not safe yet, but she was alive. Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He pulled a chair close, sitting down. He wasn't sure if this was bravery or stupidity. Maybe both. The alien woman looked at him again. "Thank you?" Ethan nodded. "Don't thank me yet. I don't even know what's happening." For a moment, the room was quiet. The sound of her breathing and the hum of the machine were the only noises. Then she spoke, slowly, carefully. "Name?" "Lyra." The word felt soft, like a song. Ethan nodded. "Lyra. I'm Ethan." She touched her chest. "Captured, hurt, alone. Long time." She pointed around the room. "Humans, afraid. Pain." Her voice trembled. Ethan felt a sting of guilt in his heart, even though he had nothing to do with this. He looked away, ashamed. "We're not all like that," he said. Lyra stared at him, searching his face, trying to believe him. "There were more," she whispered. "Like me. Gone now." Ethan's eyes widened. "Gone? As in escaped?" Lyra shook her head. "Gone. No more. Taken away. Failed experiments." The words hit Ethan like ice. Experiments. The government did not just study them, they used them. Tested them. Hurt them. He felt sick. He stood and started pacing. "Why would they do that? Why bring you here in the first place?" Lyra slowly sat up, the tube shaking. Her eyes glowed brighter now. "Message: peace. We came for peace. But fear changed everything." Ethan rubbed his face. The world he knew, it suddenly felt smaller. He imagined a ship arriving, hopeful, peaceful, only to be met with cages and needles. "I need to get you out of here," he said, the decision forming in his voice as he spoke. Lyra looked at him, shocked. "You help? Why?" Ethan hesitated. He did not know the full answer. But he knew how he felt. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. She stared at him, eyes softening. For the first time, she did not look like a prisoner. She looked like someone who had found a reason to live. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the room. Red lights flashed. The machines beeped violently. Intruder detected. Sector 7 access breached. Ethan spun toward the door. Heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway outside. Metallic, inhuman, marching closer. Security drones. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. "They are coming." Ethan grabbed her hand. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. He pulled her off the table. She leaned on him for support. As they reached the door, a shadow appeared in the hallway, a tall machine, glowing red eyes, raising an energy weapon. Ethan gasped. Lyra whispered, "Run!" The security drone blocked the hallway like a steel nightmare. Its metal body was twice the height of Ethan, arms shaped like weapons, a single red eye burning in the center of its head. The eye scanned the corridor, and when it focused on Ethan and Lyra, it glowed brighter. "Target identified," the drone said in a flat, robotic voice. "Surrender subject." Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. He tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. She was shaking, breathing fast. Her oxygen mask hissed with every breath. Ethan stepped back into the lab, pulling her with him. The drone moved forward, heavy metal steps echoing like thunder. He looked around desperately. They needed another exit, anywhere to hide. His eyes landed on a service hatch in the corner, a small maintenance tunnel door. Maybe big enough for them to crawl through. "Come on," he whispered. He guided Lyra toward the hatch, dropped to his knees, and yanked the handle. The hatch screeched open. Dust and cold air rushed out. He helped Lyra inside first. The drone's voice filled the room. "Escape attempt detected. Force authorized." Ethan's blood ran cold. He grabbed a toolbox from the shelf and threw it as hard as he could. The drone turned to track the sound. It worked, for 1 second. He crawled into the tunnel and shut the hatch behind him. It locked with a click just as a blast of energy hit the other side, shaking the wall. Inside the tunnel, it was pitch black. Ethan switched on his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing dust, old pipes, and metal panels. Lyra wheezed, leaning against the wall. "They will not stop," she whispered. "I know," Ethan said. He tried to smile, tried to look confident. But fear sat in his stomach like ice. They moved forward, crawling on hands and knees. The tunnel twisted, turned, dropped downward. Ethan checked every direction, praying they didn't get lost. Behind them, something boomed. The drone was breaking through. Lyra flinched. Ethan crawled faster. "We need somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere they can't reach us." Lyra closed her eyes and focused. Her skin glowed faintly, like stars under the surface. She lifted a hand and pointed left. "That way." Ethan didn't question it. Something told him she knew more about this place than he did. They reached a grated floor panel. Light shone through. Ethan peered down. Below was a large storage room, filled with crates, machines, and something important, protective suits and tanks. "We can rest," Ethan said. He pushed the grate open and lowered himself down, then helped Lyra after. Lyra collapsed against the crate. Ethan checked the tanks, oxygen, fuel, maybe even alien atmosphere. He strapped a portable oxygen unit to Lyra's side, attaching tubes to her mask. Her breathing steadied. "You saved me," she whispered. Ethan sat beside her. "I'm trying." Lyra turned her head, eyes glowing softly. "No. You chose to care. That is powerful." Ethan didn't know what to say. No one had ever called his choices powerful. He always felt small, unimportant, just a mechanic fixing things no one cared about. He stood and scanned the room. There had to be something they could use to escape the base. A map screen glowed on the wall, a layout of the entire facility. Ethan studied it. There were 2 ways out of Sector 7. A security elevator, too risky, or the waste transport tunnels leading to the surface. Ethan pointed. We go here. To the tunnels. Lyra hesitated. Danger. Outside cold. Hard to breathe. Ethan looked at her oxygen unit. I'll keep you alive. I promise. Suddenly, metal crashed overhead. Dust fell from the ceiling. The drone had reached the tunnel above. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. They found us. Ethan grabbed a crowbar from the shelf. His hands shook, but he stood between her and the sound. More drones joined, their steps like drums of war. Ethan whispered, We move! Now! He helped Lyra up. They ran to the waste tunnel door. Ethan slammed a button on the panel. The door screeched open, revealing a long, dark tunnel stretching into the unknown. Cold wind blew against their faces. They stepped inside. As Ethan closed the door behind them, a metal arm shot through the gap, trying to stop it. Ethan pushed with everything he had. The metal fingers scraped against his hand, sparks flying. He roared and shoved harder. The door slammed shut. Silence. Ethan leaned his head against the door, breathing fast. Lyra rested her hand gently on his back. The touch was light, grateful. You are brave, she whispered. Even if you do not know it. Ethan looked ahead, into the long, dark tunnel. No, he said. I'm just done being afraid. Together, they walked into the darkness, toward hope, danger, or something beyond both. The waste tunnel felt endless. The air was cold and smelled like rust and chemicals. Ethan held the flashlight ahead of them, the beam barely reaching the walls. Lyra walked slowly beside him, one hand touching the wall to stay steady. Her breathing mask hissed softly, the oxygen unit glowing faint blue. Far behind them, echoes of metal footsteps faded. The drones had lost their trail, for now. Ethan finally stopped when they reached a small maintenance platform. A dusty control panel sat against the wall, covered in wires and dirt. He brushed it off with his sleeve and tapped the screen. It flickered alive. Access level required? Ethan frowned. Of course. Lyra stepped closer. The screen glowed brighter as her fingers hovered above it. The alien symbols from earlier shimmered across the display. The system beeped, then unlocked. Ethan stared. How did you? Lyra looked down. My people's technology, stolen. Copied. Humans used us to build this. Ethan felt a heavy weight in his chest. Everything she said made the air feel colder. He cleared his throat. Lyra, how long were you kept here? She looked away. I lost time. Many seasons. Many tests. Her voice cracked. I heard others scream. Then silence. I thought I would be next. Ethan regretted asking. He didn't want her to relive it. You're not alone now, he said gently. Lyra met his eyes. For a moment, her glowing gaze softened. Respect. Trust. Maybe even hope. Then the control panel beeped again. It displayed a map, not just of the tunnels, but the entire base. Several rooms blinked red. Ethan zoomed in. Project Genesis, status, active. Laboratory 3, subject transfer. Survival rate, less than 1%. Ethan's jaw clenched. This is not a research base. This is a prison. Lyra touched the screen. A grave. Ethan scrolled further. Security logs opened. He read the first lines. Arrival of alien envoy confirmed. Mission, diplomacy. Fear response detected. Capture order initiated. Subjects classified as threats due to potential unknown abilities. Containment priority. Biological advantage. Ethan stepped back. His fingertips felt numb. They didn't even try to talk. They just assumed you were dangerous. Lyra nodded slowly. Fear makes walls, not bridges. A loud rumble shook the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan looked up. Something large was moving above them, heavy machinery, maybe gun turrets shifting positions. Lyra pointed ahead. We must go. They will find us. They continued forward. The tunnel sloped downward and opened into another chamber, a circular room with glass tubes lining the walls. Inside each tube rested shapes. Ethan's breath caught. Bodies. Aliens. Dozens of them. Skin colors of silver, blue, violet. Some eyes open, empty. Others curled like they were sleeping. Most tubes were cracked. Life support machines silent. Lyra reached the nearest tube and pressed her hand against the glass. Tears formed, glowing like liquid stars. My sisters, my brothers! Ethan felt his heart twist. He looked at their faces, peaceful, innocent. Not weapons. Not monsters. Just people who never had a chance. What have we done? He whispered. Lyra closed her eyes. Not you. She turned to him. Never you. Before Ethan could respond, an alarm blared through the room. Unauthorized presence detected. Containment breach. Defense response activated. Panels in the ceiling opened. Small drones dropped like spiders on metal legs, crawling toward them. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They sprinted to the far side of the room. A metal door waited, sealed, heavy. Ethan slammed his fist on the panel. Locked. Lyra stepped forward, her hands glowing with soft blue energy. The lock clicked, gears shifting, and the door slid open. Ethan stared. You can control our tech? She shook her head. It remembers us. Machines born from stolen knowledge obey their origin. They rushed through the door and entered a narrow corridor that led upward. Metal clattered behind them. The drones were coming through the door. Ethan found a ladder and began to climb, helping Lyra up first. The corridor shook with explosions as drones fired energy blasts. Halfway up, a speaker crackled overhead. A human voice this time. Ethan Cole. Stand down. This is Director Hale of Project Genesis. Do not assist the alien. We will forgive your trespass if you surrender now. Ethan froze. Hale. His supervisor. The man who hired him. The man who said this base was just maintenance work. Hale continued, voice cold as stone. She is not a survivor. She is a weapon. You are releasing a threat to humanity itself. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm, terrified. Do not believe them. Please. Ethan's heart thundered. Sweat dripped down his face. He looked between the speaker and Lyra. A choice. Trust the people who raised him, or the person he had chosen to save. He lifted his chin and glared at the speaker. If she's a threat, it's because you made her one. Then he climbed faster. As they reached the top, Lyra looked back down. The drones were almost at the ladder. She whispered, voice shaking. Ethan, if I am a danger, will you still help me? Ethan opened the hatch. Wind rushed in. The surface. Freedom. He looked at her, truly looked. You're not the danger here, Lyra, he said. They are. Together, they climbed into the night. Cold night air hit Ethan and Lyra like a wave. The sky above them stretched wide, filled with stars that looked sharper than glass. The desert wind howled, carrying grains of red sand across the rocky ground. It felt like another world, even though this was Earth. Ethan pulled Lyra up through the hatch. She stumbled, knees weak, oxygen unit humming. The moonlight reflected off her silver skin, making her look like she was made of starlight. We don't have much time, Ethan said, scanning the area. In the distance, the research base sat in the desert like a metal monster, lights glowing like eyes. Lyra followed his gaze. They will come. With machines. With soldiers. Ethan nodded grimly. Then we stay ahead of them. He saw something up ahead, an old service vehicle, half buried in sand, a hover transport used for supply runs. If he could fix it, they could escape into the desert before Hale's forces reached them. We need that, Ethan said, pointing. They rushed to the transport, Lyra leaning on him for support. The machine was rusted and the windshield cracked, but the engine looked whole. Maybe it still had hope, like them. Ethan opened the maintenance panel and got to work, hands moving fast like muscle memory. Wires sparked, circuits hummed. He muttered under his breath, "Come on, come on!" Lyra watched him, eyes full of wonder. "You fix machines like healers fix wounds." Ethan laughed nervously. "Yeah, well, machines don't usually shoot at me." Lyra tilted her head. She didn't fully understand the joke, but she smiled anyway, a small, fragile thing in all this fear. Then, headlights blazed behind them. Ethan whipped around. 2 armored jeeps appeared, racing across the sand like beasts with metal teeth. Soldiers stood in the back, guns mounted, aiming directly at them. Lyra gasped. "They found us." Ethan's heart slammed in his chest. "Not yet. Get in!" The engine roared to life the moment he pulled a loose cable together. Like the vehicle wanted to help them. They jumped into the hover transport. Ethan slammed the controls forward. The vehicle lurched, then lifted several inches off the ground, skimming the desert surface. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted. The transport shot forward, wind ripping past them. Behind, gunfire echoed, bright trails of energy cutting through the night. Lyra clung to the seat, her skin glowing brighter. Fear pulsed through her veins like electricity. "They will destroy us," she whispered. Ethan glanced at her. "Not while I'm driving." The desert blurred around them, dunes rising like dark waves. The transport shook violently, engine whining. Ethan pushed it harder, but the fuel gauge blinked red. "Low power." "Seriously?" Ethan groaned. "Can anything just work for once?" Lyra closed her eyes. Her hands glowed with blue light, brighter than before. The air in the transport shifted, energy swirling around her like invisible wind. Ethan stared. "What are you doing?" Lyra took a shaky breath. "Helping." She pressed her glowing hand to the dashboard. The lights inside the transport flickered, then surged bright. The engine scream turned into a roar, more powerful than before. The vehicle shot forward like a bullet, leaving the jeeps behind, for a moment. Blue sparks danced across Lyra's fingers. She winced, pain flashing in her eyes. Ethan reached over and grabbed her hand gently. "Stop! You'll hurt yourself!" She trembled. "If I do nothing, we die." Ethan shook his head. "Then we find another way." Lyra's glow faded. The engine continued to run strong, as if her touch had awakened something inside it, something left over from stolen alien tech. The transport reached the top of a dune. Ethan stopped and looked out below. There, hidden in the desert valley, surrounded by old supply crates and sand-covered machinery, was a small landing dock. A ship, half buried in dust, lay there. Sleek, alien, unmistakable. Lyra's lips parted. Not in fear, but recognition. "My craft," she whispered. "They took it, kept it from me." Ethan looked back. The jeeps were climbing the dune, drones hovering above like vultures. He gritted his teeth. "Then let's take it back." They drove down the dune, sand spraying behind them. The alien ship loomed closer, elegant but damaged, like a broken promise. Ethan parked and jumped out. He helped Lyra down. Together, they ran to the ship. The sound of engines and weapons drew closer. Ethan shouted, "Lyra, can you open it?" Lyra placed her hand on the hull. Blue veins of light spread across the metal. A panel slid open, releasing a soft hum. Ethan stared. "You're amazing." Lyra shook her head. "Scared. But trying." Ethan stepped beside her. "That's what courage is." They entered the ship. Lights flickered to life, scanning them. A soft female voice spoke in an alien tongue, then switched to English. Pilot recognized. "Welcome back, Lyra." Lyra gasped, tears falling silently. Ethan looked at her, knowing this moment meant everything. Then the ground shook, jeeps arriving. Boots hit sand. Drones buzzed closer. Ethan and Lyra shared a look. No more running. Time to fight for freedom. Inside the alien ship, the air felt different, lighter, warmer, alive. Soft blue lights pulsed along the walls like breathing veins. Every surface hummed with energy. Ethan had never seen anything like it, but somehow, it felt welcoming. Like the ship itself understood they were running for their lives. Lyra moved toward the center console, her fingers shaking. The controls glowed when she touched them, reacting like old friends waking up. Symbols shifted from alien language to English. Ethan stared. This ship, it knows you. Lyra nodded, her silver hair falling around her face. It remembers me. It remembers home. Before Ethan could say anything else, a loudspeaker outside crackled. Ethan Cole! Director Hale's voice boomed across the landing dock. Last warning. Step out with the subject and you will not be harmed. Ethan's stomach twisted. Hale sounded confident, like someone who believed he controlled everything, even the stars. Lyra looked at Ethan, fear in her glowing eyes. They will break the ship. They will kill you. They will take me back. Ethan stepped closer. His voice shook, but his choice did not. They're not taking you. Not again. Outside, engines revved. Metal boots crunched against sand. Drones hovered around the ship, red eyes staring like predators. The ship suddenly spoke, its voice calm and smooth. Threat detected. Activating defense protocols? Lyra hesitated. Fear and hope battled inside her. She looked at Ethan. He nodded. Do it. Lyra breathed in slowly and whispered. Activate. A low hum filled the air. Panels opened on the ship's hull, sending out shimmering energy fields. Like force shields made of starlight. Drones fired, bolts of energy hit the shields, bending like water and dissolving. Ethan's jaw dropped. That's impossible. No, Lyra said. That is science you have not learned yet. Ethan let out a shaky laugh. Right. That. Outside, Hale barked new orders. Bring it down! Full force! Missiles launched from the jeeps, streaks of flame across the sky. They hit the shields and exploded, shockwaves shaking the sand. The ship groaned under the pressure. Lyra staggered, clutching her chest. Ethan rushed to her. What's wrong? The ship, she gasped. Linked to me. Pain for it, pain for me. Her voice trembled. If they destroy it, I die. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Then we're not going to let that happen. Tell me how to start it. Lyra looked toward the controls, eyes unfocused. I need to connect. Fully. She placed both hands on the console. The lights flared bright, wrapping around her arms like ribbons of energy. The ship responded, engines rumbling, dust swirling beneath it. Ethan backed away as the floor vibrated. Outside, Hale shouted desperately. Stop! That ship cannot leave this planet. It contains technology that threatens every human alive. Ethan yelled back, voice cracking. No, you are the threat! For the first time since he arrived at this base, Ethan felt powerful. He felt like someone who mattered. Lyra sank to her knees. Ethan, help me hold it. He rushed to the console and placed his hands beside hers. The moment his skin touched the surface, energy surged through him. It was like touching lightning, hot, sharp, alive, but it didn't burn. It felt like the ship saw him, recognized him. Lyra stared at him, shocked. It accepts you. He grit his teeth. Then let's fly. The ship rose higher, dust spiraling around it. Soldiers clung to the jeeps, drones firing wildly. One drone broke through the shield, crashing into the ship's side. Sparks showered the cockpit. Lyra screamed, energy flaring from her eyes. Ethan grabbed her, steadied her. Stay with me! She breathed hard. I am trying. Ethan! I am trying so much. The ship's engines reached maximum power. Light filled the cockpit, too bright to see. Outside, Hale shielded his face and shouted one last command. Shoot! Them! Down! A final barrage of missiles launched just as the ship blasted upward. The world blurred. Sand exploded below. The ship shot toward the sky, breaking through the storm of fire, leaving flames and chaos behind. Ethan held on to Lyra as the desert shrank beneath them. For a moment it was quiet. Then, alarms blared inside the ship. Fuel supply critical. Engine damage detected. Emergency landing required. Ethan's heart sank. We're not safe yet? Lyra shook her head weakly. We must reach the mountains. Hidden place. Sanctuary. My people left signs. Ethan nodded, forcing bravery into his voice. Then that's where we go. He took a seat beside her, hands still glowing faintly from the energy. For the first time, Ethan realized. He wasn't just helping an alien escape. He was helping her fight for her future, and maybe, humanity's future too. The ship sped toward the mountains, smoke trailing behind. Uncertain. Damaged. But free. For now. The alien ship streaked across the sky like a wounded star. Smoke trailed from the engines, turning the night into a trail of burning clouds. Below, mountains rose like giant shadows, sharp and cold. Ethan held the co-pilot controls, trying to steady the flight. Every few seconds, the ship trembled like it was fighting to stay alive. Lyra sat in the pilot's seat, eyes glowing dimmer now. Her energy was low. Too low. Hold on, Ethan said. We're almost there. Lyra nodded weakly. The sanctuary, hidden in the mountains. A place where no human steps. We will be safe. But even as she spoke, alarms blared again. Engine failure imminent. Crash landing protocol ready. Ethan swallowed hard. He looked through the cracked cockpit window. The mountains were close, too close. If they didn't slow down, they would hit the rocks like a falling comet. He tightened his grip. Lyra, can the ship slow us down? She shook her head, silver hair clinging to her face. Only if I give more, but I have nothing left. Ethan looked at her, truly looked. She wasn't a threat. She wasn't a weapon. She wasn't anything Hale said she was. She was someone who came here to give humanity a chance to be better. And humanity failed her. Until now. Ethan stood and placed both hands on the console. The ship reacted instantly, lights flaring, screens shifting. Lyra gasped. Ethan, it accepts you again. Why? Ethan breathed deep. Maybe because I choose to help, not harm. Maybe that's enough. He focused, willing the ship to understand. We need to land. Safely. Energy surged beneath his palms. The controls glowed, forming symbols Ethan had never seen before, but somehow understood. His heartbeat synced with the hum of the ship. For a moment, human and alien technology felt like one. Outside, the mountains rushed toward them, then slowed. The ship trembled, engines screaming against gravity. Rocks shattered as the landing gear scraped the ground. The ship slid across the mountain floor, throwing sparks like fireworks. Ethan braced his body against the seat. The world became a blur. Metal screamed. Then silence. Dust drifted around them, floating like ash. The ship lay still, nose buried in the snow. Steam hissed from the engines. Ethan coughed, pushing himself upright. Lyra, he whispered. A soft voice answered. Here. She was slumped over, but alive. Ethan helped her stand. When her feet touched the ground, the snow beneath her boots shimmered blue, reacting to her presence. Lyra looked around the mountains. We made it. Sanctuary is close. I can feel it. Ethan stepped out beside her. The cold air burned his lungs, but it felt clean. Pure. He scanned the sky. No drones. No soldiers. No alarms. For the first time since Sector 7, silence felt like safety. Lyra turned to him. You saved me. You saved my people's memory. Ethan shook his head. No. I just did what humans should have done the first time. I listened. Something shifted in Lyra's eyes. Not fear. Not pain. Respect. You are proof, she said softly. Proof that humanity can change. That there is hope. Ethan felt something rise in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. What happens now? He asked. Lyra stepped forward, looking toward the mountains. I send a message. Not for war. Not for revenge. For truth. She raised her hands. Energy swirled around her, brighter than before, like the mountains themselves answered her call. The sky turned silver, a beam of light shooting upward like a signal flare to the stars. A message. A declaration. We survived. We still believe. We will return. Ethan watched the beam fade. Then Lyra turned to him again. My people will come, she said. One day. And when they do, they will ask, can humanity be trusted again? Ethan felt the weight of that question, heavy like the world, settling on his shoulders. He looked up at the stars. Then I'll make sure the answer is yes. Lyra smiled. A real smile. Warm. Alive. You already have. Footsteps crunched in the snow, Ethan's, as he stood beside her. Two silhouettes against a mountain of ice and starlight. Human and alien. Not enemies. Not experiments. Just two lives refusing to let fear decide the future. Lyra reached out and took Ethan's hand, not as romance, not as fantasy, but as trust.